Welcome back to our stroll through Kraków. This is the fourth episode in our series, and a truly special one. Today we pause at a place that holds a unique place in history and in the heart of a nation, Wawel. Wawel is not just a castle and a cathedral. It is a symbol of statehood, a legend, and a space where identity and tradition were shaped over the centuries. Here beats one of the most important hearts of history. This film is meant as an invitation to take your own stroll through Wawel. Even the most vivid stories, no matter how well told, can't replace the experience of being here yourself. Still, today we'll try to bring you closer to its atmosphere and open the door to a world of legends, history, and extraordinary architecture. As always, additional information and maps are available on our website. The link is under the video. And a quick reminder, our films are recorded in the original Polish dubbing, marked with a yellow ribbon, and in English with a blue one. And YouTube also offers automatic dubbings in other languages. And now let's continue our stroll, this time up to Wawel. Wawel, a limestone hill rising above the Vistula river, has drawn people's attention for centuries. Here a ducal stronghold was built, along with a bishop's cathedral and even an entire small town that for hundreds of years served as the seat of Polish rulers. According to linguists, the very name Wawel means a dry rise among waters and marshes. And indeed, it was a natural wonder. A hill rising out of the damp river valley, a place easy to defend yet comfortable to live in. The oldest traces of human presence on Wawel date back tens of thousands of years. But true development began at the turn of the first millennium, when Wawel became a center of power, both secular and ecclesiastical. This was where the first stone buildings were raised, and the hill grew into political heart of the emerging Polish state. It became the residence of the first Polish kings, Bolesław the Brave and Mieszko II. From then on, Wawel was forever inscribed into the history of the country, standing as a symbol of power, faith, and national identity. Today, in the very center of Kraków, rises an imposing complex of buildings, illuminated by history and legend. A place that has for centuries given Poles a sense of continuity, moral strength and patriotism. We approach Wawel from Kanoniczna Street. The historic route taken for centuries on the way to the cathedral and the royal residence. Along the steep climb, we are accompanied by a brick wall with a remarkable story to tell. These are the so-called Wawel bricks, small plaques set into the wall between 1921 and 1924, to commemorate the donors who contributed funds to the restoration of the royal castle. The initiative was launched by Professor Adolf Szyszko-Bochusz, the architect and conservator who led the Wawel restoration works in the interwar period. The original bricks that once adorned the wall can today be seen in the collections of the Wawel Museum. But these plaques became more than just mementos. They were a manifestation of patriotism, a symbol that society as a whole, through even the smallest donations, took part in the reviving the nation's shrine of history. The names engraved on them remind us today of those who in the difficult years between the wars supported the work of rebuilding. Climbing further, we reach the gate of coats of arms, adorned with the heraldic emblems of the former lands of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It's like a stone sign of unity and remembrance of a state that once stretched from the Baltic Sea to the Ukrainian steppes. Beyond it, another awaits, the Baroque Vasa Gate, built during the reign of that royal dynasty. Passing through, we step onto the courtyard before Wawel Cathedral, the very heart of the hill and the perfect place to begin exploring. After passing through the gates, we head straight toward the most important church in Poland, Wawel Cathedral. For centuries, Polish monarchs were crowned here, and here too their remains were laid to rest. That's why it is often called the first church of the Commonwealth. The cathedral's history reaches back to the year 1000, when Bolesław the Brave founded the first Romanesque building. Another Romanesque church was begun by Władysław Herman and completed by his son, Bolesław the Wry-Mouthed. Sadly, in 1305 the cathedral burned down. Reconstruction was undertaken by Władysław the Elbow-High, who later crowned himself here. From that moment on, almost every Polish king was crowned in this cathedral, and after death buried in its crypts. At the very heart of the cathedral, beneath a canopied altar, lies the silver sarcophagus of Saint Stanislaus, bishop, martyr, and patron saint of Poland. In the past, this was the place where war trophies were brought and offered. From the outside, the cathedral is encircled by chapels founded by kings and nobles. The most famous of them is, of course, the Sigismund Chapel with its golden dome. According to legend, Queen Anna Jagiellon donated an entire sack of gold ducats for its construction. And indeed, the dome still gleams today, like a true Renaissance treasure. The cathedral is crowned by 3 towers. To the south stands the oldest, the Vicar's Tower, also called the Tower of the Silver Bells. To the north rises the Clock Tower, and right beside it, a little shorter but far more famous, the Sigismund Tower with the mighty Sigismund Bell. Cast in 1520 by the bell founder Hans Behm at the order of King Sigismund the Old. It rings only on the most important occasions in Poland's history, both national and religious. The bell itself weighs more than 12 tons, and its clapper nearly 900 pounds. To this day, it takes the strength of several bell ringers working together to set Sigismund in motion. Its deep, solemn sound carries across the whole of Kraków, and for many Poles has become a symbol of unity and the continuity of national history. There is also a legend tied to the bell. It is said that if someone touches its massive clapper and makes a wish, the wish will come true. Another tale warns: if the clapper were ever to crack, it would be a bad omen for all of Poland. No wonder each toll of the Sigismund bell is treated like the voice of history itself. The Wawel Cathedral is surrounded by an early Baroque wall with 3 gates designed by Giovanni Trevano. Entry is through doors from the time of Casimir the Great, iron-clad with the king's initials repeating like a royal signature. And just beside them, hanging on a chain, are enormous ancient bones, the remains of Ice Age animals. In medieval tradition, they were believed to have magical power, protecting the cathedral from evil. Legend says that as long as they hang here, Wawel will endure, but if they ever fall, it will be the end of the world. In its present form, the cathedral is a Gothic 3-aisle basilica with a transept, an ambulatory, and a ring of chapels. Its interior is filled with magnificent details and royal relics, but unfortunately photography is not allowed. So if you want to see all the chapels, tombs, and the pantheon of rulers up close, you simply have to come here in person. By the Vasa Gate stand medieval buildings once built for the clergy. Since 1978, they have housed the Cathedral Museum, which preserved treasures from the old treasury, once linked to the royal crown. Its greatest highlight is the Spear of St. Maurice, said to have been given to Bolesław the Brave by Emperor Otto III in the year 1000, during the Congress of Gniezno. From the courtyard in front of the cathedral, we now head toward the royal castle, the very heart of Poland's political life for centuries. In the time of the Piasts, there was only a modest palatium here. In the 14th century, it was replaced by a powerful Gothic fortress, and in the 16th century transformed into the Renaissance residence we can still admire today. This great reconstruction was carried out under King Sigismund the Old, with the work entrusted to some of the most renowned architects of the age: Master Eberhard Rosenberg, Francesco de Florentine, and Bartolomeo Berecci. From the cathedral site, we entered the castle through a Renaissance portal. On its frieze is inscribed a quotation from St. Paul: "If God is with us, who can be against us?" Words meant to inspire courage in the king and his court. Above the portal, 3 coats of arms are displayed: that of Poland with the white eagle, that of Lithuania with the pursuer, and that of the Sforza family, to which Queen Bona belonged. From here we pass into a spacious vestibule and then on to the arcade courtyard. The royal castle on Wawel Hill consists of 3 wings, arranged around a Renaissance arcaded courtyard. The 4th, western wing was never completed. The southern wing, meanwhile, forms the so-called curtain wall with arcades, topped with an attic dating from the second half of the 16th century. In the 16th century, the courtyard looked quite different. It was much lower, and the columns of the arcades were painted dark red. Combined with the light-colored walls, the polychrome decorations by Dionyzy Sztuba on the 2nd floor, and the colorful metal sheets on the roofs, they created an impressive, vibrant hall. This was the setting for court ceremonies and nightly tournaments watched from the galleries. The courtyard also features the famous window of Queen Bona. According to tradition, it was from here that the Italian queen observed the events taking place on the square, as well as the tournaments. The window has become part of Wawel legend and is still shown to visitors as a symbol of the presence of the most famous Renaissance queen at the royal court. The first and second floors were taken up by the royal apartments. On the first floor, during the reign of Sigismund the Old, were the private rooms, the bedroom, dining room, and in the western wing, the chambers of the Queen's Court. These rooms can still be recognized today by their bricked-up windows overlooking the courtyard, likely sealed to shield the daily life of the Queen and her ladies-in-waiting from outside view. The second floor, known as the Piano Nobile, had a representative function. In the eastern wing was the Deputies' Hall, where envoys and ambassadors were received. And in the northern wing, the monumental Senators' Hall, where coronation seims and grand court balls were held. On the left side of the courtyard lie the remains of the Romanesque church of St. Gerion from the 11th century. It was here that the modern legend of the so-called Wawel Chakra was born, a mystical stone said to be one of 7 in the world, believed to radiate spiritual energy and protect Kraków. Though no one has ever seen it, the story continues to attract visitors and lends the hill an air of mystery. But the history of Wawel is also marked by tragedy. The castle burned many times and was rebuilt again and again. Fires and wars changed its appearance, yet each time it rose from the ruins. The darkest period came during the partition of Poland, when the Austria turned Wawel into barracks. The royal chambers were taken over by soldiers, medieval buildings were demolished, and the hill became a symbol of national enslavement. Only in 1905, after years of effort, did the army leave the castle, allowing Poles to begin a great restoration campaign. The interiors of the castle dazzle not only with their architecture, but above all with their greatest treasure, the tapestries of Sigismund Augustus. This monumental collection of 160 works was commissioned in Brussels in the finest 16th century weaving workshops. King Sigismund Augustus intended them to decorate his residence, while also proclaiming the power of the Jagiellonian dynasty. These tapestries are true masterpieces, enormous hand-woven pieces depicting biblical scenes, animals, fantastic creatures, and rich floral ornaments. They were breathtaking in effect, covering entire walls, transforming the royal chambers like moving stage sets. They were first displayed in 1553 at the wedding of Sigismund Augustus and Catherine of Austria, and from then on became an integral part of royal ceremony. Although turbulent history caused part of the collection to be lost, over 130 of the tapestries have survived, and after World War II were happily returned to Poland. Today they form the largest ensemble of its kind in Europe, priceless, unique, and still on display in the halls of Wawel Castle. On the ground floor, in the eastern and northern wings of the castle, are the crown treasury and the armory. This was once the place where jewels, robes, and the coronation insignia were kept, used for the last time in 1764 at the coronation of Stanisław August Poniatowski in St. John's Collegiate Church in Warsaw. Today, however, they can no longer be found at Wawel. In 1755, Prussian troops broke into the treasury, looted the Polish regalia, melted down the crowns, and sold off the precious stones and pearls. Yet one priceless symbol of Polish monarchy has survived: the Szczerbiec, the coronation sword of Poland's kings. According to legend, it was chipped by Bolesław the Brave when he struck the Golden Gate of Kiev during his campaign of 1018. In reality, the sword was crafted in the 13th century, but for centuries it was surrounded by an aura of uniqueness and became an indispensable attribute of every coronation, a symbol of the strength and continuity of royal power. And now it's your turn. Visit the castle with a guide, set aside a few hours, and let yourself be led through the royal chambers while listening to stories that no film can ever replace. And then join us again as we continue our walk through Wawel Hill. In front of Wawel Cathedral stretches a broad courtyard, laid out in the early 19th century, when the Austrians tore down the medieval churches of St. Michael and St. George, along with other buildings that had once formed the so-called Wawel town. In Jagiellonian times, Wawel was surrounded by as many as 10 defensive towers. 7 of them have survived to this day, though some only in fragmentary form. The oldest, the Jordanka Tower, was built in the 13th century and takes its name from the royal official Jan Jordan. Its lower part was later incorporated into the walls of the Renaissance wing of the castle. Further towers were added in the 14th century during the reign of Casimir the Great, encircling what was known as the Lower Castle. The tallest of the surviving towers is the brick Senator's Tower, also called Lubranka, named after Bishop Jan Lubrański, which closes the southern wing of the residence. On the southern side, we also see a fragment of the defensive walls, reconstructed after World War II. Rising here are towers with intriguing names: the Noblesmen, the Maidens, and the Tęczyński Tower. The names refer to the social status or gender of those once imprisoned within them. The Tęczyński Tower, however, has a different story. Its name recalls a dramatic event. In 1461, a quarrel between Andrzej Tęczyński, a powerful nobleman, and a Kraków armorer named Klemens escalated into open conflict. After repeatedly assaulting the craftsmen and ignoring calls for justice, Tęczyński enraged the townspeople. When he sought refuge in the Franciscan church, the mob broke in, killed him in the sacristy, and desecrated his body in the streets. His death led to a royal trial. In January 1462, 6 townsmen were sentenced to death and executed by the castle walls, beside the tower. From that grim event comes the name Tęczyński Tower, which still stands as a reminder of the tensions between nobles and townspeople in medieval Kraków. A little further on rises the Sandomierz Tower, one of the best preserved towers of Wawel. Built in the 14th century during the reign of Casimir the Great, it guarded the entrance to the hill from the direction of Sandomierz. Later, it also served as a prison, and during the partitions, it was used as a military storehouse. Its massive cylindrical silhouette with battlements still recalls the strength of medieval fortifications. According to legend, it was here that the Tatars once tried to storm Wawel, but the tower successfully withstood their assault. Continuing towards the Vistula, we pass the former vicar's house, and right next to it the Thief's Tower, once a prison for petty criminals, today a fine vantage point with panoramic views of Kraków. But the attractions don't end here. By the defensive wall there is an entrance to the legendary Dragon's Den, a limestone cave that has fired the imagination for centuries. The chronicler Jan Długosz described it as the lair of a monster of enormous size, resembling a dragon of serpent, which preyed on cattle, livestock and sometimes even people. From here was born Krakow's most famous legend. When we emerged from the Dragon's Den onto the banks of the Vistula, we are greeted by a modern attraction. The huge sculpture of the Wawel Dragon by Bronisław Chromy. From time to time it breathes fire, a fiery reminder of the old tale. And when the dragon falls silent and the hill is wrapped in stillness, Wawel reminds us that it is not just a monument. It is a symbol of Polish history and statehood. Here kings were crowned, here they were laid to rest, here the fate of the kingdom was decided. It has survived fires, wars and partitions, and still stands as a witness to our history. Our walk ends here, but our journey through Kraków continues. So be sure to subscribe and join us on our next walk. This time from the foot of Wawel we will lead you into Krakow's Kazimierz, once a separate town founded by King Casimir the Great, which for centuries became the heart of Jewish life in Poland, and still enchants visitors with its unique atmosphere. Thank you for walking with us and see you on our next walk.